Hey, Language Arts parents, coming at you with another Language Arts review and preview for what's going on in Language Arts class. This is our first week back from break, and it was kind of a long week. 5 days back from 2 weeks off is always a little bit interesting, but we made it through. It's Friday, and we learned some great things. We accomplished a lot this week. We started Bend 3, which is the final bend of our argument reading and writing unit. We've been working on the concept of actionable change all through this unit. In the first bend of the unit, we talked about different ways to create change in the world around us. In the second bend, we talked about some specific issues, some specific topics, and how we can create change in those topics, hypothetically. Now in Bend 3, we're actually going out and trying to make change. We're putting all of that to practice by utilizing the kinds of methods that we talked about in Bend 1 and the kinds of topics we talked about in Bend 2. And now they've actually published some projects, sent things out to their intended audience, collected some feedback, and tried to engage their audience as well as possible, as much as possible, to create change in the world around them. So hopefully they take away from this unit that they can actually make a difference. They can go out and accomplish small tasks that can turn into bigger movements that can create small or big change. So that's exactly what we've been up to. They published on Wednesday. So I introduced it to them on Monday, and then they published their projects on Wednesday. It's a very fast turnaround. But the goal of that fast turnaround was so that they could then collect some feedback from their audience. They either made posters or made some digital advertisements or some videos that were all posted on one website that was shared between all 3 language arts classes in 8th grade. All students then created Google Forms and attached them to their projects to collect feedback from their audience. So students took some time to leave feedback for their peers so that everybody would have some feedback. They took a look at what people said about their projects. They revised their projects yesterday and today, and then they republished them today with that new feedback in mind. I like this revision process because it showed them to listen to their audience. A lot of times people are going out and trying to, just kind of make social media posts or trying to yell the loudest, shout the loudest in the room, and not really listening and paying attention to what other people have to say or others' perspectives. But by doing some research, publishing, collecting feedback, and revising, they were able to actually meet the needs of what their audience wanted to see. Yesterday, we heard from Josh Allen. He's our district technology integrationist, I think is the official title. And he spends his days using the social media accounts at Lewis Central and helping teachers to integrate technology into their classrooms. And so he talked to us about his process in publishing things to digital audiences, which was really helpful for us because he mentioned that that kind of publishing to a school district audience is very different than what students are currently using their own social media platforms for. He has to be very unbiased. He has to be very careful in the kind of language he uses, the kind of pictures he shows, the kinds of content that he's publishing so that people don't interpret the district social media accounts as taking sides on issues. That was really interesting, and I think kids saw that from a new angle. Like they never really thought about that before. And so he gave us some really good feedback. He also talked about ways that they can make their posts more engaging through the use of visual aids or, like manipulatives or ways to interact, interactive functions on those posts or projects. And so kids took that to heart and applied it to their presentations and projects today. So preview for next week, we have group presentations on Tuesday, and that's where everybody's going to get up, talk about their project, talk about why they did what they did, how they did what they did, how they collected feedback and how they used that feedback, and what potential next steps they would use if they were to continue on with this topic and this project. That's happening on Tuesday. They're going to spend most of Monday prepping and planning for that project. Students, as you can probably tell, have had quite a bit of project-based time in class, which is usually more unstructured. Some kids handle that really well, and some kids really struggle with that. And so I would just recommend, general recommendation would be to continue to give students opportunities at home or wherever possible to utilize that unstructured time so that they can schedule out their own goals, work towards achieving those goals, hold themselves accountable. Because that is something that I struggle to see in the classroom when they have maybe 30 minutes to complete a task. A lot of times 20 minutes goes by before they've really even realized that the time is passing, and they are very limited in what they can accomplish. So I just general recommendation for what they can be doing to improve at home. We're beginning our dystopian reading unit next week. That includes book clubs. That includes whole class text, which is our first whole class text of the year, which is the novel Lord of the Flies, if you're familiar with that one. It's a good one. And dystopian reading is a really fun genre. It's a really common one for middle schoolers especially, and it's a common one in the last decade or two. So I'm expecting that kids will be pretty engaged with that one. Just something to keep on your radar that we are taking the iReady reading assessment on January 20th, and we'll have a couple makeup days for that. Some things to keep in mind. I did buckle down, making sure that students only have wired headphones, not wireless Bluetooth headphones. That's become a big issue increasingly over the course of this year. They're kind of new, and so it's taken a while for us to figure out how to use them appropriately. And for the most part, students are not. They keep them in their ears while I'm talking or during group work, and it's hard to know if they're actually engaged, and it's hard to know what they're listening to. So I've said no wireless headphones. They have to be wired only, and everybody does need a pair. We use them almost every day because they need them for their Lexia assignments that we do regularly. So students need wired headphones. I know Dollar Tree sells them for $1. I tell them all the times I get mine at Menards for cheap too. So just make sure that they have a set of wired headphones. With that, they should be completing their Lexia and independent reading minutes every week. 100 pages is what they should be reading every week. And then their Lexia minutes vary. It's typically about 110 minutes per student that they should be accomplishing over the course of that week. They get a homework check when they accomplish those things each week, and that does build towards a grade. And so it's an easy thing. I know I have conferences coming up in a couple weeks. It's an easy way that students can bump up their grade is if they're just keeping up their Lexia and independent reading on a regular basis. For homework this weekend, they should be working on their presentation. They only got about 15 minutes to get a head start today, and so I'm hoping that they have enough to work on. They shouldn't save all of that for Monday. They should have a really, really good idea of what they're doing going into Monday. If they need to communicate with their classmates, they are probably pretty good at using their technology to do so. So make sure that they're checking in, figuring out what each of them needs to do, so that they're really, really ready for our presentation on Tuesday. That'll be one of the bigger grades for this trimester. All right, that's all I have. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you next week.